Hi everyone, welcome to the Nexus. Up for review is Maid of Sker, an indie survival horror game that takes place in 1893 where you play as Thomas Evans, set with the task of rescuing his girlfriend from the deserted Sker hotel. And I have to say, this is a pretty fine game. I'll be 100% honest and say that I don't normally play horror games. My experience with them in the past is that they're pretty hit or miss and a gamble that I don't normally like taking. Outside of the recent Resident Evil games, I don't have much trust in the genre, but after playing Maid of Sker, I'm certainly more open to trying horror games as I had a good bit of fun with this one. From the solid story, to the admittedly simple stealth mechanics, there's a lot to like, and things to not like. This game starts you off arriving at Sker Island, where you try to find out what has caused Elizabeth, Thomas's girlfriend, to send a letter asking him to compose a melody and to rescue her from the family's hotel. Once you make it to the property, you get in contact with Elizabeth via phone, and she pretty much tells you that her daddy, uncle, and staff went crazy and that you have to find music cylinders that caused the madness and to try to put a stop to it all. After a few moments of exploring a seemingly empty hotel, things start to get real.
Please! Hurry! We must get this door open. Good. Good. Try again. Harder, man! Throw yourself into it! Wait. No. I can't. Oh God, please, no! No, don't do this! Whatever you want,
This is when the horror kicks in, and you're introduced to the enemies inhabiting the hotel grounds. And I have to say, these are the most generic enemy designs ever. Crazy people with sacks over their heads. It's so overdone, and at no point, by the way, does this change. Every single enemy you encounter in this game is just a sackhead. A sackhead with a top hat. A sackhead without a shirt. Fully clothed sackheads. The worst part is that they're always present and on display, so I got over any sort of fear of them in about 45 minutes. It certainly didn't help that this happened a little over an hour on my playthrough. And this continued to happen as enemies can't open save room doors and ultimately exposes their fairly significant delay in response time. Armed with this knowledge, I use this as a way to circumvent sneaking past enemies, because if the map showed a safe room nearby, I would just bolt straight past the enemy and watch them struggle in amusement. So after an hour, the game loses its horror. I should give it a 1 and call it a day, right? Well, you see, even though I stopped finding the game scary, I was still interested in its other offerings. As I mentioned earlier, Elizabeth contacts you through the phone, and this continues to happen throughout the course of the game. Each of her lines of dialogue are fully voiced, and the voice actress's performance is quite good, so each encounter with Elizabeth is refreshing and quite welcome.
Dear God, that's horrific. I dread to think of you being snatched like that too. Our one hope of helping him, helping all of them, is finding the cylinders.
Outside the occasional calls, phonographs placed throughout the estate that act as save points also hold voice recordings, exposing the Williams family's secrets, adding another layer to the story.
What? Who's there? How long have you been there, Uncle?
Oh, don't stop, lass. Go on. I enjoy hearing you practice. You've nearly as fast finer set of lungs as your mother.
How dare you? Get out! Get out of here now!
Just like in most other titles, notes are left around filling in the gaps of the narrative that Elizabeth and the phonographs don't cover. The snippets of narrative spaced out throughout the areas are not in any way groundbreaking, but do add a factor of intrigue that kept me wanting to learn more. Now let's cover what you'll mostly be doing with your time at Sker Hotel. Sneaking. You see, like many other horror games, you can't directly fight the enemies. Instead, you're forced to find ways around the faceless men stalking the halls. Because the enemies don't have eyes, that means that you can cruise right past them, so long as you hold your breath and don't accidentally bump into them. Another way of avoiding combat is to use the phonic modulator. Basically a sound grenade that stuns enemies. And I'll be honest, I hardly used this. Because of the small amount of charges spread throughout the levels, I only used it during a boss encounter and once to get past an enemy I was not in the mood to sneak past. By the end of the game, I had 7 recharge cartridges left, and I felt like a cooldown system would have been more beneficial to actually encourage me to use it rather than hoard it, worried that I'd miss the right opportunity to pop it off. Even with the addition of the sound grenade and breathing mechanic, Maid of Sker doesn't really offer much that would distinguish itself from the rest of the games in the genre. The best strategy is just to wait for enemies to rotate out of spots you need access to, with the occasional breath holding needed to proceed without being detected. What I feel the studio did really well was in crafting detailed level environments. Even though I wasn't impressed with the enemy design and felt as if I was in control of most dangerous scenarios, I still couldn't help but be creeped out while navigating the levels, feeling as if a monster could pop out of nowhere and catch me off guard. Moments like these genuinely had me reconsidering playing or deciding to take a break, and that's exactly what I wanted from this experience. It's just disappointing that the other facets of the game don't live up to the tension built up in these scenes. And since we're on that disappointment train, the inconsistency and lack of supernatural elements was quite jarring. One instance that really sticks out is this dark void you wake up in after being gassed. While in this void, sounds play off in the distance and you have to venture out to each source and tap on the items resonating with the sound. This happens for a few times, then you're led out to the exit. But if you don't leave and decide to take a couple steps back into the darkness, you take health damage. And at no point in the game thus far are any supernatural elements explored beyond a few glimpses of what looked like maybe a ghost in the opening segment of the game. So I was pretty confused. Another instance is during an encounter with the top hat sackhead who can time shift or teleport to piano and then in an instant start searching for you in the next room. It was really weird and it didn't make sense considering what the game points to for the reason why people at Sker Hotel have lost their minds. Maybe I missed a note somewhere that explains the whole teleporting, but it made no sense at the moment. Yet, even with all the negatives in mind, I still had a fun time with this game. I mostly treated Maid of Sker as a creepy, atmospheric stealth game rather than a straight up horror title, and I don't regret picking it up, which is why I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. If in future the dev studio makes another horror game and is able to tighten up the stealth and increase the scary elements, they without a doubt could reach that 8 territory, making for a great experience. Until then, I'll be looking out for other games similar to Maid of Sker, as it has piqued my interest for what these type of horror games can provide, and I want my next fix. What are your thoughts on Maid of Sker? Did it look good to you, or did it look like a generic horror experience? Drop a comment with your thoughts and consider slapping that subscribe button to stay up to date on all the content the Nexus uploads. For now it's goodbye, but you're always welcome back to the Nexus. See you next time.